I bought the farm because I was done with people telling me how to live. 5 years of city noise, apartment rules, parking permits, and neighbors who complained if you breathed too loud through the walls. That was enough for me. When I found the property out past the edge of Cedar Hollow County, it felt like I was finally free. 40 acres of open land, a weather-beaten farmhouse, a long gravel driveway that disappeared into trees before opening into rolling fields. The realtor had smiled like she was letting me in on a secret. "No HOA out here," she said. "Just you and the land." That was all I needed to hear. I signed the papers the same week. The first few months were everything I dreamed of. Sunrise over the fields, the sound of wind moving through tall grass, nights so quiet it almost felt unreal. I fixed fences, repaired the barn roof, and installed a full security system, mostly because I liked knowing I could see every corner of my property from my phone. 8 cameras total: gate, barn, driveway, house corners, and one overlooking the main field. It wasn't paranoia, it was peace of mind. Then the trucks showed up. It was a Tuesday morning when I first saw them. I was fixing a broken fence post near the south field when I heard engines, too many of them, too clean for farm roads. 3 black SUVs rolled up to my gate and stopped like they owned the place. I remember wiping my hands on my jeans and walking toward them. The first thing I noticed was the logo on the door: HOA Field Operations Division. I actually laughed out loud. An HOA out here? The driver door opened and a woman stepped out. Mid-40s, sharp haircut, sunglasses, clipboard in hand like she was about to inspect a crime scene instead of a farm. She didn't smile. "You are trespassing on regulated community land," she said immediately. I blinked. "Excuse me?" She tapped her clipboard. "This property falls under Cedar Hollow Agricultural Management Association jurisdiction. You need to register your land use immediately." I actually looked behind me to see if she was talking to someone else. "There's no HOA here," I said. "I checked before I bought it." Her expression didn't change. "That's incorrect. The association was updated last year. All properties within this perimeter are subject to compliance." I felt something tighten in my chest. "That's impossible. I own this land outright." She stepped closer to the gate. "Ownership does not exempt you from community governance." That word, governance, stuck in my head like a nail. Behind her, one of the SUVs idled. Another man was already taking photos of my barn. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Documenting non-compliant structures," he replied without looking at me. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was intentional. I pointed at the gate. "You need to leave my property." The woman finally smiled, but it wasn't friendly. "We'll be issuing formal notices. Non-compliance fines begin at $2,500 per violation per day." Then she turned around and walked back to the SUV like the conversation was already decided. They left 10 minutes later, but something about the way they looked at my land didn't feel like it was over. That night, I checked my security system for the first time since the visit. Everything had been recording. I fast-forwarded the footage from the gate camera. The SUVs arriving, the clipboard woman stepping out, the man photographing my barn. But then I saw something that made me pause. One of them had walked along my fence line while the others spoke to me. He had stopped near the corner post and placed something in the dirt. I zoomed in. A small metal marker, stamped, HOA Property Boundary Confirmation. My stomach dropped. I'd lived in rural counties long enough to know land disputes weren't always clean, but this was something else. I grabbed my phone and called the county recorder's office immediately. The woman on the phone sounded bored until I mentioned the HOA claim. Then she went quiet. "We don't have any registered HOA authority extending into Cedar Hollow farmland," she said slowly. "Nothing has been filed." then how are they claiming jurisdiction over my property? Another pause. I can't answer that, she said, but I would advise you to document everything. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the footage. The man placing that marker, the woman's calm voice, the phrase non-compliance fines. Around 2:13 a.m., my driveway camera triggered a motion alert. I sat up immediately, pulled up the feed. First, I thought it was a glitch, a single figure standing at the edge of my driveway, not moving, just watching the house. Then another figure stepped out from behind the tree line. Then another. 3 total, all wearing dark clothing, no headlights, no vehicle, just standing there in the dark like they were waiting for permission to enter. And then, one of them pointed directly at my camera, as if they knew exactly where it was. The feed cut out.